Are we all ready, everybody? Good evening, everybody. The West Hollywood City Council acknowledges that the land on which we gather and that is currently known as the City of West Hollywood is the occupied, unceded, seized territory of the Gabrieleño Tongva and Gabrieleño Kizh peoples. At this time, I'll invite those who are able to stand and follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Gillig, could we have a roll call, please?
Thank you, and good evening, Commissioners. Commissioner Solomon. Here. Commissioner Hoopengarner.
Here.
Commissioner Harris.
Here.
Commissioner Edwards.
Here.
Commissioner Carvalero.
Here.
Vice Chair Jones.
Here.
Chair Gregoire.
Here.
And we have a 7-member quorum.
Thank you so much. One of our fellow commissioners is going to have to recuse himself from item 10B. So in approving the agenda tonight, I would like to propose that we move item 14A and B up after the director's report. Also, I will note that item 10C, staff is suggesting that we continue this matter to a date uncertain. And for item 10D, there's a recommendation that we continue the matter to January 15th, 2026. So in approving the agenda, those items will be deemed continued. So I would move that we again, move items 14A and B up to right after item 7, Director's Report.
I'll second.
Great. We have a motion and a second. Can we have a vote?
And the motion passes unanimously with 7 ayes, approving the agenda for November 20th, 2025 as amended.
Great, thank you. Approval of the minutes. We have before us draft minutes for the November 6th, 2025 meeting. Does anyone have any proposed changes to the minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Let's have a vote.
And the motion passes with 7 ayes, approving the draft minutes of November 6, 2025 as presented.
Great. Public comment, this time limited to a maximum of 20 minutes, has been set aside for the public to address the Planning Commission on any item that is not set for public hearing or any item that is not on tonight's agenda. In accordance with the Brown Act, public comment relating to business not appearing on the agenda cannot be acted upon or discussed by the Commission during the meeting, but may be referred to staff for report on a future agenda, ordered, received, and filed, or referred to the proper department for administrative resolution. Staff requests that all persons wishing to address the Commission please fill out a speaker slip and give it to the Commission Secretary prior to speaking. The Commission requests that when you begin, please state your name and the name of the city where you reside. Individuals may address the Commission for up to 3 minutes each unless the Commission determines a different time. Mr. Gillig, do we have any public comment?
Chair, we do. Our first public commenter will be Genevieve Morrill. Genevieve will be followed by Anita Goswami.
Good evening, Commissioners, Mr. Chair. Genevieve Morrill,
President, CEO of the West Hollywood Chamber of Commerce. I just wanted to address you in public comment tonight because this will probably be my last planning commission in West Hollywood. As you know, I have tendered my resignation. I actually did it about 2 years ago, but it took a while. I have just really wanted to take a moment to thank you for everything that you've done for the city and for the Chamber of Commerce over the years. When I started in 1999, 25 years ago, I think John Alshall was on the commission, possibly Don D'Amico. I can't remember when Sue Buckner came in, but I couldn't Google. I couldn't get a list, so I couldn't remember who was on, so some of you might know. Too many to mention throughout the years, 25 years. And whether I stood before this body with Africa Consulting and others for the red building entitlements when I was at the Pacific Design Center, or to express our concerns or support for different business policies of interest to the business community, sometimes opposing, sometimes in support. We always had a mutual respect and great relationships over the years. I learned so much in West Hollywood, and it's been a home to me with experiences and long-lasting relationships I will forever cherish and memories I will treasure. I am on to my next chapter, whatever that may be, and I invite you to our holiday mixer on December 8th at La Boheme, where we may be introducing the new CEO. I want to thank you and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. And our final speaker will be Anita Goswami.
Hi there, Anita Goswami. I'm a longtime resident of West Hollywood. One super simple question, because the items before you are around billboards. My question is simply, what is the actual billboard revenue that the city receives? I'm sure that there's a report that somebody is generating around this for how much money is coming from each sign. I would love to see that report actually made public and visible, because that would just be awesome. Item 2, City Council on Monday. It was awesome to actually see the priorities chart that the city administration is focusing on, because when I looked at that, it actually made clear to me ZIP is so much more than just the little bit that has been communicated to the community during the community workshops and the different communications we have received. I think this is something when I looked at all of the different things, both what council members wanted that were pulled into ZIP, as well as what was part of ZIP, these are the kinds of reasons that when the community goes to a workshop, sees a tiny piece of this, and then we get very upset about it because this is all that we see. We know there must be more. What I am asking for is that there be more visibility and context. And we stop looking. I mean, our cities don't, it's like, our city's 2 miles wide. We don't have a big city. We got a tiny city. Even when we look at this tiny city and we look at things, let's look at that big picture and present the context of whatever that changes, that zoning text amendment will be. When we look at billboards, let's look at more than just the billboard and that parcel. When we look at larger buildings that we're evaluating, larger proposals, again, look at a broader context. And I think that's really important, and that would give more credibility for the commission, for the planning departments, for staff, for the city administration, that there is more visibility around this. So that is just, I wanted to be sure that you were aware of that. And if you haven't taken a look at all of those things, take a look at Sunday's, the agenda packet from Monday. There's some excellent reports about, again, priorities of what the city staff is actually working on, what they think is important. And then, again, context, not just planning and zoning, but also transportation. I'm glad that there will be some study sessions going on, but when you look at those priorities, look again and say, how does this that's going on in mobility affect, zoning, affect these different things? Again, context and comprehensiveness around it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Chair, that is our last public speaker.
Thank you, everybody, for your public comment. Director's report. Director Marisic.
Good evening, Chair Gregoire, Vice Chair Jones, and members of the Planning Commission. Nick Marisic, Director of Community Development. I'd like to start by addressing an item that was raised at last week's design review subcommittee meeting regarding the process laid out in the zoning ordinance for creative signs. Section 19.34.060 provides a process to allow the city to approve on-site signs that differ from the general standards and limitations in place for business signage. And such signs are required to meet certain design criteria that are specified in the code and must be reviewed by the Planning Commission if they are larger than 50 square feet in size. And one such example of this is agendized for consideration on tonight's agenda. But it was brought to our attention at the subcommittee meeting that there may be examples of existing on-site signs in the city that have not gone through this review process for creative signs. And I want to let the commission know that we are working to address any such instances as they are brought to our attention. And if you see signage that has been installed without the appropriate review and approval, or anyone of the public, please feel free to reach out to our staff, and we'll be sure to look into it. Thank you. Next, I wanted to share some items of interest from the City Council meeting earlier this week. First, the City Council met, and at the City Council meeting, I provided a roughly 10 to 15-minute presentation on a verbal presentation on the current work plan activities of the Community Development Department. And this is the first in what will be an ongoing series of presentations to update the council and community on departmental work plans. So we were first, there'll be other departments to follow in future council meetings. So if you're interested in learning more about all of the different things that we're working on in community development, I encourage you to check out the video recording, which is posted on the city's website. And this presentation was under the city manager's report near the start of the meeting. Also at that meeting, we prepared our quarterly update on the status of major development projects, and this was item E3 on the agenda. And in addition to the update on the status of major projects and all of the Sunset Arts and advertising projects, we also have maps included that show the location of all of these projects across the city. So again, that's item E3, and all of those, the maps and the spreadsheets are all posted with the council agenda. Item F1 was a report with an update that we provided on the status of various initiatives that the council directed staff to pursue as part of a council directive from May of this year. That's focused on reforming the housing approval and permitting process and other related streamlining efforts. So we provided an update as to where we are with each of those various items in that directive. That was item F1 on the council agenda. And then finally, the council did approve on first reading the reintroduction of the Equitable Building Performance Standards Ordinance following the previous update that I gave you where they gave further direction on that ordinance. And then, as I mentioned at the last meeting, we have the free West Hollywood Day and State of the Community celebration taking place this coming Monday, November 24th, when West Hollywood is celebrating 41 years of cityhood. The event will take place from 6 to 8 p.m. at the West Hollywood Aquatic and Recreation Center. You can get more information, RSVP to get your ticket at weho.org/community/cityhood. That concludes my report, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Director Marisic. Do we have any questions for the director? Hearing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now we'll go down to items 14A and B, Planning Manager Update and Subcommittee Management.
Thank you so much. Good evening. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Looking ahead to the agenda for the Planning Commission, your next meeting is going to be on December 4th, and you will be considering 3 items at that meeting. There will be a conditional use permit for Ore Bar, which is located at 8226 Santa Monica. The other item is a billboard for 8222 Sunset. And the third item on December 4th meeting is a zone text amendment, which is for ADU urgency ordinance. That is the only meeting in December. And then you have one meeting in January. There will be 2 items. Currently, there are 2 items scheduled for January 15th meeting, zone text amendment for streamlining qualifying housing projects, and also another zone text amendment for billboards off Sunset Boulevard. Design review subcommittee meeting. The next meeting is on December 11th. There will be 2 items considered by the committee. Both are residential projects. One is at 948 Hayworth, And the other one is the bond project, which is at 7811 Santa Monica. And then for long-range planning projects subcommittee meeting, there are no items scheduled at this time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Hearing none, thank you so much. We don't have any consent calendar items. We don't have any public hearings on projects subject to the Housing Accountability Act. We have 2 public hearings. We will start with item 10A for 8600 Melrose Avenue. We will be holding a public hearing at this time for the proposed approval of a 1,604 square foot creative sign on the north elevation of an existing commercial building for a new tenant located at 8600 Melrose Avenue. Before we have the staff report, are there any commissioner disclosures about public conversations? Hearing none, let's go to a staff report.
Can everyone hear me? Okay. Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Commissioners and Chair. Derek Purification, City of West Hollywood, Associate Planner. As you mentioned, this item is item 10A, which is a creative sign for it's 1,604 square foot creative sign located on the north elevation of an existing commercial building. It's for the existing retail tenant, MetaLab. The commission doesn't really see too many of these, but to let you know, the reason for this sign is because any creative sign larger than 50 square feet requires the review and approval of the Planning Commission. And that's pursuant to Code Section 19.34.060.d. This project is categorically exempt pursuant to CEQA Guidelines 15301, which is for existing facilities, and 15303, which is for new construction and conversion of small structures. This next slide is just a quick overview of the surrounding area. The subject site is located on the southwest corner of Melrose Avenue and Westbourne Drive. It's approximately 19,600 square feet, and it's developed with a 15,000 square foot commercial building. The property is zoned CN2, which stands for Commercial Neighborhood 2, and the properties to the north, west, and east all share the same zoning of CN2, and the properties to the south are residentially zoned. As far as existing conditions, the commercial building, as I said, is already existing. It was constructed in the early 1990s. It has a revival style facade with faux stone architectural details. The tenant, who's MetaLab, as I mentioned earlier, they occupy the eastern portion of the building within the 2-story, 11,000 square foot tenant space. This next slide shows a rendering of the proposed creative sign. The sign itself is printed on a vinyl overlay, which is applied directly to the building itself, and it follows the contours of the architectural details, and there are no physical changes to the building. It's purely just a vinyl wrap. The design depicts a pair of Meta Ray-Ban Wayfarer sunglasses, and it's printed with shadows to create a simulated 3D effect. And you'll notice the 2 storefront windows, they act as lenses to the glasses themselves. Those will remain transparent and will only be illuminated by the interior lighting of the tenant space. I would like to point out that the creative sign has already been installed. The reason that happened, it was connected with a special event permit. That special event permit was approved by the Director of Public Works, and it allowed for a 30-day approval for the sign. This sign, the special event permit itself will expire on Monday, November 23rd. As far as design review subcommittee, as you know, design review subcommittee just happened last week. Originally, it was scheduled for October 23rd. That meeting was canceled due to a lack of quorum. But just for a quick recap, Overall, the subcommittee had a positive response to the sign. They expressed support, and overall, they liked the design. They felt that it was appropriate for the design district, and it generally fits the design aesthetic of Melrose Avenue. They expressed some concern with sustainability as well as the overall maintenance and daily wear and tear and weather exposure, and there were some concerns about how that would be maintained. The applicant responded to that. They said that they were in agreement with any conditions that we may want to impose on it for any conditions of approval regarding maintenance. Staff already had included a condition under condition 6.4, which speaks to the applicant maintaining it throughout the lifespan of the installation. The subcommittee, they did not have any recommended changes to the design for the tenant, or sorry, for the applicant before tonight's meeting. But there was mention of possibly giving a deeper drop shadow to the image itself, if there's given any type of opportunity, maybe during maintenance or something like that. The applicant was agreed that they would be more than open to that. But the deeper drop shadow would provide more of a pop for better visibility of the image itself. And here you can see the image of the Wayfarer sunglasses. It's kind of a closer image, but if you had a darker drop shadow, it would help the image pop out a little bit more. As I mentioned, the sign has already been installed through the special event permit. Overall, the project demonstrates high quality design with contextual integration and artistic expression, which is envisioned by the city's creative sign program. As designed, it represents a distinctive addition to the Melrose streetscape with its contrast between revival-style architecture and the monochromatic graphic, which is applied with the vinyl wrap. It aligns with the creative, design-oriented identity of the design district. The proposed sign for MetaLab is consistent with the goals and policies of the city's general plan. High-quality, imaginative sign contributes to a pedestrian-friendly and urban environment and reflects the values of both resident and business community. So in closing, staff was able to make all the required findings pursuant to Code Section 19.34.060E and is recommending, and we are recommending approval of the proposed 1,604 square foot creative sign located at 8600 Melrose Avenue as conditioned in draft resolution PC 25-1627. This concludes my presentation and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Before we have preliminary questions of staff and an applicant presentation, I'd like to give Commissioner Hoopengarner an opportunity to make some comments on behalf of the Design Review Subcommittee.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Derek. I think you did a good job recapping in both your memo and your presentation what went on at Design Review last week. I think there would be, the thing that we did emphasize is, you know, the ability to be 3D, and I don't know if you didn't really mention it in your staff report, but the fact that the lot line exists right at the edge of the building precludes anything sort of projecting out of the building in terms of making the glasses themselves three-dimensional, which we discussed at Design Review. And you know, the making it more dimensional, whether it be a color or physical properties, was a real topic. And the trick is making it more dimensional without making it cheesy. And, you know, keeping it subtle and yet visible. And so that's the artistic challenge for this creative sign. One of the things that was not in your report, Derek, that we brought up and should be probably a condition was that there would be no additional signage. That later on there's no lettering that pops up that says Meta, that it keeps it the clean image that it is. And so we discussed that, and I think we were all in agreement that that image should be, if approved by this body, that should be maintained, and that there shouldn't be any, like, 3 months from now, oh golly, let's, stick a sign here, or, throw up some lettering there. So we can leave that for discussion, but I did want to bring that up, that happened at design review. The other thing that happened at design review briefly that I want to ask a question about, so I'm going to a little bit seg here from design review to my question, is about the landscaping. Because in your design review memo, you stated that the hedging that was across the front was being removed, and that I just went back and rechecked it because I was confused, that the hedges would all be removed. It's on page 2 in the design review memo. But in the conditions on the resolution, it states explicitly that the landscaping is going to stay in place and it's going to be maintained. So could you clarify that?
Sure. Yeah, at the time when the design review subcommittee memo was created, I think there was some confusion as to what was going to happen with the existing landscaping. We spoke with not only the property owner, but also the tenant. The tenant worked with Public Works as well. And since they were not replacing the sidewalk itself, they were required to maintain the hedge. And so what they did was, and it's already out there, it's been replanted, there's permanent irrigation as well. And so that's why it's conditioned to make sure that it's maintained and it stays there. In the future, if the property owner and the city work something out where, the sidewalk ends up getting extended, that would happen at a later time. But as far as this project is concerned, and as of right now, the hedge will stay there. It is conditioned to be maintained and irrigated.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that because it was different in the last week at design review.
Understood.
Okay, thank you. That is it for my comments from design review mashed up with my questions. Thank you.
Great. Before we hear any applicant presentation, are there any other questions from the commissioners to staff? Hearing none. Does the applicant have a presentation they'd like to make? Please state your name and your city of residence, and you will have 10 minutes.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jeff McConnell. I'm from the city of La Cañada Flint Ridge. I'm joined by my colleague Rick Gunter and Katie Randazzo. We represent the project team for MetaLab. Pleased to join you this rainy evening and want to thank the city staff for their presentation. If you didn't know, the West Hollywood is one of only 4 locations across the U.S. for a MetaLab brand store. Meta is a pioneer in wearable technology, and Meta's glasses and sunglasses combine iconic style with the latest in wearable tech, allowing you to capture photos and videos, listen to music, interact with AI, and stay connected with calls or texts using just voice commands. As you might recall, MetaLab had a 3-month pop-up retail experience last fall with the same facade treatment. Due to the success of the store, Meta decided to make it permanent. The city has determined that the glasses are synonymous with the product and therefore require a creative sign application and your approval to allow this design, which would otherwise exceed the city's existing sign code regulations for sign area. There are small window signs that say MetaLab that are well within the side code requirements and are in the windows, and we talked about that at the committee. I will now turn it over to Rick Gunter, who will talk more about the design of the facade itself.
Good evening. Rick Gunter, also a La Cañada Flint Ridge resident. So why Ray-Ban? So Meta has been consistently pushing the boundaries of virtual augmented reality that serve people and promote economic opportunity. Ever since James Dean first wore the Ray-Ban fairs in 1955, these sunglasses have been associated with culture and style in Hollywood and in Los Angeles. Ray-Ban Meta glasses combine the best Hollywood iconic style with the cutting edge that AI provides through Meta. The Wayfarer glasses are a classic Hollywood style, part of the culture and expression of Los Angeles. The Hollywood style is combined with the newest tech to make a truly California product. a timeless style that is cutting-edge technology, emblematic of what Meta is trying to do in their retail businesses. The sign that we designed is scaled appropriately to the building and its expression thereof, right? So by keeping the sign as print only, the sign can be thought of and put up and brought down in a way that is with people walking up close to it. And to kind of reflect the 3D thing, one of the things that we wanted to try and do is that there's a little bit of discovery involved in it. So that, like many interesting things, it's not abundantly clear the very first time you see it. The longer you look at it, the more interesting it becomes. And when you're walking alongside and seeing something interesting coming up the building, and particularly in the upper left-hand corner, the little white dot, the camera, which is not a real camera, just so we know, it represents the camera on the glasses. We think that makes a more interesting facade that then is more interesting the more you see it. So it doesn't, we don't want it something that the first time you see it, you've got it, I don't need to look there again. They are designed to appear large enough that it's the building wearing the glasses. So the reason they're as tall as they are and as wide as they are is that it's sort of the emblematic, that there's a blue background that is kind of a general color for their product, and then the building is wearing the glasses, which is why the lenses of the glasses are the windows through into the retail. So the other windows are covered to kind of create a uniform background, and then the glasses that you look through into the retail product where you can go buy them. The color, of course, is interest because in that part of Melrose, there's a lot of bold colors going on, and we think that that's really critical to a vibrant retail community, to not have a boring faux historic building that doesn't do anything interesting, but a color that really jumps you and says, hey, something interesting is happening here. To make, we talked about covering all of the windows too. Then lastly, from a maintenance standpoint, just so everyone knows, so the product is a vinyl which is specifically designed for exterior installation, made by 3M. It passes the ASTM E35 for fire resistance. It's designed in a way that can be pulled off in pieces and replaced. So to address maintenance issues which might happen, you can take parts of it out and put parts of it on, and it seals back up again like you weren't there. And the part about that is we're protecting the underlying building. We're not building and replacing anything if we have to change it. I'm here to answer any questions if you have, but that was the general concept on our design.
Just a couple of additional items, things that we discussed at Design Subcommittee, want to maybe follow up on. Meta did explore the potential for a true three-dimensional installation, but it was determined with the design being the size that it was and being around the windows, it was impossible not to encroach into the public right-of-way at the pedestrian level, which would then create a safety concern. Further, the requirement for the landscaping along the facade must be maintained. It's also a part of our tenant improvement permits. As it relates to the maintenance, the manufacturer stated that there should be no noticeable fading for 1 to 3 years, depending upon which direction the facade is facing. This one is facing north. We should expect this to last for several years, and as my colleague said, able to be repaired very quickly. We have the, of course, a condition that allows for code enforcement to come by anytime there's any degradation at all that gets noticeable to site for a correction, and Meta will immediately repair that situation. They've also discussed a maintenance plan with the installer on an ongoing basis because they also care very deeply about how the store presents itself. There was also some concern about other maintenance, potentially moisture or other debris getting behind the vinyl. That would cause bubbling immediately there. Then the maintenance plan would kick in again, and they would come out and replace that area. With that, I thank you for your time this evening, and we are happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you so much. Before we move to public comment, are there any questions for the applicant? Hearing none, thank you so much. Mr. Gillig, do we have any public comment on this item?
Chair, we do. In council chambers, we have Genevieve Morrill.
Hello again, Genevieve Morrill, President and CEO of the West Hollywood Chamber of Commerce. West Hollywood, their creative city. This is our moniker, it's our mantra. And creative signage categories was created because if you put a beautiful pastry outside of Bottega Louie, it's considered advertising. If you want to paint a fish on Rooster Fish, it's considered advertising because they have fish. And I think back when I was at the PDC, the creative sign code was created because we wanted to put a big chair and a big 10-foot lamp outside of the Pacific Design Center. And that's when this creative code was created for creative signage. And I think that I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say we need to really look at these codes and how we can be more creative for these businesses to really embrace creativity like Meta has and have to, and unfortunately go through this process, of course. But here we are, it's for Meta, and I'm so glad that the design review has looked at this. It is a creative sign. And Meta started as a pop-up, and it's now becoming a permanent installation in West Hollywood. If you haven't been in there, it's like an Apple store on steroids. You should go in. It's really fantastic. It's an experiential kind of business. And it's spectacular. And it's only fitting that the experience starts before you come into the business, enter the space. The smart glasses facade are smart. They're clean, they're subtle, they're engaging, and they're inviting. Most of all, it adds to the creative landscape of West Hollywood. Please approve this innovative building application and addition to our community. And please consider in the future looking at how we can embrace more creativity for businesses with creative signs. Thank you.
Thank you. That was our last public speaker in chambers. I believe we have one public speaker on the Zoom platform.
Yes, we have public speaker Greg. Please *6 to unmute, and please state your name and city of residence. And you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, can you hear me? I'm Greg Rain, resident of Los Angeles, Executive Director of the West Hollywood Design District. Good evening, esteemed Chair and Planning Commission. I first wish to say thank you for the care and consideration given to our community here this evening. Our mission as a business improvement district is to excite the economy by engaging the minds and senses of our guests and our residents. As such, our design district business community is a reflection of our residents, artistic, innovative, and committed stewards of our environment. The immersive Meta Lab experience on Melrose likewise strives to reflect these values. The creative sign on its exterior stands in concert with many bold facades of its neighbors, I won't name names, while not impeding pedestrian or lifestyle experience in any manner. It is part of a holistic narrative, enhances guest experience, and adds a new sense of dynamism to the Melrose corridor. I concur with the staff report in support of the Meta Lab creative sign and welcome Meta to the design district community. I too make myself available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, and Chair, that is our last public speaker for this item.
Thank you so much. Applicant, do you have any rebuttal? Thank you so much. I will close the public comment portion of this hearing. And we will move on to Commissioner deliberation. Who would like to begin? Commissioner Hootenkar.
I think this is, in fact, a creative sign. It's bold. It is visually engaging. I think it is, and I would agree with the applicant about the subtlety and the importance of that, slowly moving into it. I know I'm going first, but I would certainly be inclined to move approval of this. But I would add that I would like to add that condition about no additional signage. I feel that that's very important to the, because all of us in the room could disappear, and then along could come some new manager who's going to want to say, oh, we've got to have a sign. Nobody knows we're Meta. And no, I think it's really important that we keep this creative sign as we approve it. So I would add that condition if my colleagues would agree with me. And I would say that this is exactly what we're looking for in terms of growing our city.
Anyone else like to contribute? Commissioner Solomon.
Thank you to the applicant for bringing this forward tonight. I agree. It's bold, creative, stylistic. It's why brands from across the country, across the world come to West Hollywood, specifically Melrose, to activate their product and their name. I love what you've done. The only issue that I have a problem with goes to Genevieve's point. I think this is kind of silly. We're the creative city, but you have to ask me for permission to be creative. I mean, if you look at our ordinance on 19.34.060E, I need to have a finding that the design quality is of unique design, exhibits a high degree of thoughtfulness, imagination, inventiveness, and spirit. I'm used to this commission weighing land use impacts, not the spirit of the applicant. I do find it to be very spirited, and I hope that if there is an opportunity for staff to perhaps, maybe it has to come from council direction, perhaps it could be part of the streamlining ordinance, but 50 square feet is really small, and I hope that there is an opportunity that we can take a look at this and have design-oriented questions be approved by design-oriented bodies like Arts and Cultural Affairs Commission rather than planning. I know this is what the code says, but this is what we're doing. I just think it's kind of a silly part in our code. So thanks, and thank you to the applicant.
Okay. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Caballero?
Yeah. Okay, that opens up a big can of worms right there, but I do actually think that spirit and thoughtfulness is part of the discussion of being creative. So I like the idea that we have the opportunity to at least review that and discuss that in design review. But in regards to the signage itself, like I mentioned in design review subcommittee, I quite like this sign. I think it's a great counterpart to the Glossier sign on the other side. I really like sort of the color blocking. I like what it does to the street. I have no issue seconding Commissioner Hoopengardner's motion, and I'm very excited to see this project up. Thank you.
Great. Anybody else? I didn't hear any of Vice Chair Jones.
Sorry, yeah, I don't have really anything new to add. I made very similar comments last week, so I'm not going to repeat them here because they've already been stated by my fellow commissioners. Is there not already language, this is a question for staff and aside, is there not already a condition or language in the resolution that would preclude the tenant, the applicant, from changing the sign in any material way? I was kind of looking through and I didn't see anything that jumped out at me, but it seems like it would be something that's already in there.
Vice Chair Jones, we do have the condition that sets forth the project description and also talks about the plans that are reviewed by the Planning Commission at the November 20th meeting as what is approved. In addition, I think, the city would be unable to preclude the applicant from maybe applying for signage under the existing municipal code. Mm-hmm. So in some sense, there is sort of existing restrictions just within the municipal code about both what is approved here tonight and the plans that are approved tonight versus the ability to seek sort of additional signage in the future that would be controlled by our code.
Okay, I mean, I defer to legal here. I'm happy to include it if it's something that we feel is legally necessary, because I agree that they should, need to come back if there are significant changes, but if you don't think that it's necessary, then I'm happy to support it either way. It's just really a matter of, again, defer to your best judgment.
I think my concern is that because our code does allow for miscellaneous signage, that administratively something could happen on an oops basis that none of us intended. And if we are explicit here about saying no oopses, then that takes care of it. And that would be my intention.
Anybody else? I haven't heard any objections to Commissioner Hoopengardner's proposed language addition. Does council have any proposed language that we could?
Chair, I think one potential option is just an added condition that says no additional signage will be permitted outside the plans reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission at its meeting of November 20th, 2025, absent any necessary city approvals set forth in the municipal code.
Great. Commissioner Hoopengardner, is that language acceptable? Do you want to?
Works for me.
Will you be making that motion?
I will be making that motion.
I'll second.
I think Commissioner Carvier already.
Sorry. You already had a motion on the floor.
Either way, I'm fine. Yeah, I seconded it earlier, so
Okay.
thanks.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's go to a vote.
So it's not authority.
And the motion passes unanimously with 7 ayes. We do have an appeal process for this item. The resolution number PC 25-1627, the Planning Commission just approved for the property located 8600 Melrose Avenue, memorializes the Commission's final action on this matter. This action is subject to appeal to the City Council. Appeals must be submitted within 10 calendar days from this date to the City Clerk's office. Appeals must be in writing and accompanied by the required fees. The City Clerk's office can provide appeal forms and information about waiver of fees. Appeal deadline is Monday, December 1st, 2025 at 5 p.m.
Great, thank you so much. Moving on to item 10B, 9039 Sunset Boulevard. Before we begin, we have a commissioner that needs to announce his recusal.
Yes, I have a conflict of interest. I need to recuse myself because I've developed billboards that are part of the Sunset Arts and Advertising Billboard Program. So thank you, happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and I will see you at the next meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Cavallero. Happy Thanksgiving. Great. Before we move on to a staff report, are there any disclosures about public conversations on this matter? Hearing none, let's move to the staff report.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. I will be joined momentarily by our colleague Jennifer Davis on Zoom. She will be presenting the item.
Good evening, Chair Gregor and fellow Commissioners, Jennifer Davis. Tonight we are here to review a billboard project at 9039 Sunset Boulevard. The Commission is here to review the permits and to make a recommendation to City Council whether to approve or deny the project. This project is called The Stand, for reasons which will become clearer, and it's at 9039 Sunset. There is an existing billboard or several boards on this site. The site is located on the north side of Sunset between Doheny and Weatherly. Currently there's a two-sided rooftop traditional billboard on the roof, and there are two faces on the facade. It's kind of a marquee billboard. It does have a moving image. It was one of the first moving image billboards up on Sunset. The existing rooftop has a total square foot of 1,744 square feet, and the marquee sign, each of the face, is 200 square feet. This billboard is at 75 feet above grade, and this is the first round 1.5 project that the Commission has reviewed. The proposed billboard also has two billboards on the rooftop. Those are full motion animation. And then there's a static billboard proposed for the front facade, which wraps a bit around on the east facade of this building. The focus of this project is on sustainability. There are educational displays on the facade that is part of the public realm enhancements, and they focus on sustainable practices. The rooftop sign area for the full motion billboards, it's 960 square feet on each face, and the static sign area in the front is 743 square feet. This is a bit lower than the existing board at 71 feet above grade. The item was reviewed by the subcommittee, and it was reviewed on January 25th, 2024. This project initially had a planter with seating and landscaping in the right-of-way along Sunset Boulevard, where The thought was that people could sit and look at the public realm enhancements, which is the educational board on the front of the facade. However, that had to be eliminated due to engineering concerns, so that whole part of the project has been eliminated. The subcommittee had many questions, or several questions, I should say, on this proposed planter, but those questions are now moot because that part of the project has been eliminated. One of the comments was question whether the business ID sign has a required sign permit. We believe it does, but this has been made a condition of approval. And there was a suggestion to add general climate change or energy conservation information to the educational plaques, and this has been added to the plans. This is a night view of the project. You can see that there's a sort of internal glow to the between the two faces on the rooftop. It is enclosed in the back, however, so that light from the inside does not project northward. The project materials are pretty much the main part of this project. The large piece of timber here that starts at the top and goes all the way to the sidewalk is a mass timber. That's the main feature. That's the name of the billboard comes from this main feature, and that's why it's called the stand. The facade is upcycled wood, which is reused wood cladding on facade, and the existing steel structure for the existing billboard will be reused. The existing steel will be used in the new billboard structure on the roof. The sign faces themselves are clad in a matte white metal cladding, and down below you'll see colored concrete pavings on the sidewalk alongside painted concrete images. The facade is an educational exhibit. It's a facade story. It explains how sustainability and reusable materials were used in this project. And these are the plaques on the front. These are an example of the plaques and what would be on them. This is a sort of example in place of how to promote sustainability. So pedestrians, viewers will see how sustainable practices were used actually in this project. And this is a view of the, sort of a closer view of the front facade with the concrete pavings, the display, and the sidewalk, colored sidewalk. This is an eastbound view showing this is at 450 feet on the left and 990 feet on the right. And this is a westbound view, again 400 feet on the left, 180 feet on the right. This is an image that shows the vantage point of the billboard from up at Shoreham and Weatherly near the intersection. This billboard is lower, and from position A here, it's not visible. It's hidden by existing trees. This is position B. You can see a portion of it, and then C is also hidden by trees. Now again, this is taken from, these images are taken from the right-of-way, not from people's private property, so the view may be different from private property. And this is up Doheny Drive. This is the A image, and you can see the billboard from up here. The Sequanist, again, this was under the 2019 negative declaration for the billboard policy, which found no significant environmental impacts. And then subsequent to that, the city prepared an addendum in just August, which addressed this particular project. There was also a view shed completed for this project. The addendum states that no new environmental impacts will occur, nor that new mitigation measures are required with the proposed billboards. We do have a few modifications to the DA. So section 2.5, we need to eliminate zone map amendment, that bullet point, because it is already in a development overlay zone, so it doesn't need a zone map amendment. On 4.2.7, we needed to add the word "the" before date. 4.4, public realm enhancement maintenance just needed an underline. In section 4.8, this 4.8 was missing from the 1. And again, community development director, needed to be in there. And then the last one is section 6.3, and it was missing its subheading, so we added that, 6.3.1. Just to note, any typeface or formatting consistency issues will be corrected before we take it to City Council. With all of that, staff does recommend adopting the resolutions that approve the development agreement and the billboard sign. And actually, one of these resolutions is not needed. That was when the zoning map amendment was in there. So with that, I'm available for any questions. We do have a representative from the environmental consultant firm that conducted the addendum. She is on Zoom if we have any questions there. And the applicant also is prepared to make a presentation. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ms. Davis. Before we go to the applicant's presentation, do we have any questions of staff? Commissioner Hubinger.
Hi, Jennifer, you had in one of your images, and I'm sorry, I couldn't tell which one it was, but there's in fact a tall wall on this building, but that's not mentioned anywhere in the discussion of existing billboards, and it's not discussed anywhere. Can you explain what's up with that?
No, I cannot. There's a tall wall on 9039.
Yeah, it's right on your picture.
Just a second, excuse me.
The entire east wall is a billboard.
Oh, yes, yes. That will not be there. That is being replaced when the facade, the static facade billboard is located there. Sorry about that. Yes, you're right.
Okay. Multiple questions about that. One is, I would think that we would need to be very clear in our language in defining the project, what is being replaced. And by my measure, that's like 2,500 square feet of tall wall. Two, is there an existing agreement relating to that, as there is with the other existing billboard?
Yes, that, hold on just a second.
Because one would think legal that agreement would also need to be canceled and or superseded.
It is, and in the development agreement resolution, let me just find that section.
I mean, I see reference to superseding the existing agreement as relates to the front-facing digital billboard, but I didn't see any reference at all to the east side tall wall. And were they encompassed in the same agreement, or are they two separate agreements?
I'll have to pull that agreement up just to make sure, if you'll give me a moment, and I'll do that in just a second.
Okay. I think it's obviously this is important. If we've got an agreement we're going to have to supersede, then that needs to be identified. But that brings me to my third question. In looking at the design, 3/4 of that wall is now gray paint. And I understand how that works in terms of the design of the proposed billboard, but now instead of, and I'd really be helpful if you could pull up the pictures. I mean, I went and downloaded one from Google Maps, but that entire wall is quote-unquote artwork right now with a billboard, and under the proposed design, there's only the small piece that wraps around the header of the building, and the remaining facade, some 2,000 square feet, is gray.
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm just looking at this previous agreement.
There seems to be a rather significant thing that is not being addressed or discussed, so I wanted to get that clarified before we went any further.
Okay. I'm sorry, you have to give me just a moment then, because I'm looking through this previous executed DA.
And Commissioner Hoopengartner, I think since the city team is looking into that, I think there are other questions from the commission.
Yeah, I have a couple. One is, in the staff report, you discussed that there is no media logo proposed. And that's great, that's fine, it's lovely, but I couldn't find that in the development agreement in terms of explicitly stating that there will be no media logo. Did I miss that somewhere?
That's not in the development agreement now.
Okay. On page 5 of the resolution,
the billboard resolution or the DA?
The DA resolution. I think it is. Yeah, the DA resolution. Number 4, I was trying to get to this to reconcile because it says it creates or includes an extraordinary benefit to the city. Is that the extraordinary benefit related to the alternative project?
Yes.
Okay, because that doesn't really state that. And I was trying to get that into alignment and find, where was the alternative project payment, and all I saw was this extraordinary benefit payment. And so I think maybe
Section 8 of that resolution deals with just alternative projects. So the findings under Section 8 are the findings needed for alternative projects, and that is one of the findings.
Okay, so the whole section is only alternative project?
Yeah.
Okay. Because there seems to be a number of other things, because to me, the mass timber doesn't apply to an alternative project. There's a number of things in here that don't relate to the larger size.
Well, in the policy, there are a number of findings that have to be made for alternative projects. One of them is the exceptional design, and another is extraordinary benefit, but there are also findings that say you have to meet the development agreement findings, and that's why they're also in that Section 8.
Okay. Okay. On page 8 of the staff report, you outline the public realm enhancements. And you talk about the educational graphic installation and the integral color street pavement, and then street trees to remain. I'm having a hard time understanding how keeping our street trees is a public realm enhancement.
It's just a component. Sometimes street trees are asked to be removed as part of the projects. Sometimes they remain. That's just a note to, make it clear that the street trees remain in this one.
Okay, but that's not an enhancement. I mean, it's just should be the norm. Okay. In the development agreement on page 3.
Page 3 of the third page of the development agreement.
Oh, I may have gotten this. I may have gotten this all twisty ways. Hold on. No, I'm sorry, it's in the resolution itself, page 3. 1B, towards the bottom of the page. That's sort of the 7th line from the bottom. It says, this proposed billboard project both the stated design principles and the vision and intent of the policy.
It should have a word meets.
I figured there was something like that should be there. Okay. Okay. Those are my primary questions for now. I think my first question, needless to say, is the most important and I think needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions before we move to the applicant's presentation? Hearing none, let's move to the applicant's presentation. Please feel free to come forward, state your name and city of residence. You will have 10 minutes.
Okay, evening everyone. My name is Irvin. I'm a project designer at Rios. I'm here today with the owner of the building, Alon, and our CEO, our creative director of Rios, Melanie Freeland. So thank you all for being here. It's great weather. So I'll start. In this portion of the agenda, we'd like to have a sort of deep dive into the design concept of 9039 billboard, or as you would know, the stand. We'll use this presentation to highlight 3 components that make the billboard a positive addition to Sunset Boulevard. These 3 components being how we address the existing billboard, a design language that promotes sustainability and renewability, and how this billboard looks at night. With this said, we'll need to have an understanding of what currently resides in 9039. The billboard has 2 full animation marquees, which are not the top one, but the one in the middle, that extend outside the property line, and a static billboard on top of the building with these sort of, I guess, decorative beams shooting out of the billboard's threshold, well outside the property line. As the current design stands, the full animation technology of the marquee is dated. And the appendages, I'd say, disrupt kind of the urban skyline of Sunset. The billboards are visible, but they're essentially unattainable to the pedestrians that are walking by. So our concept is to make a continuous language of the proposed static and digital billboard, one that interacts with Sunset pedestrians. So after our first step of sort of understanding the context, step 2 starts with a conversation of sustainability and renewability. What's proposed in step 2 and 3 is keeping the existing structures that you see on top and applying a connective frame to both the digital and static billboards, allowing us to understand that these elements are in conversation with one another. It was great that we were, keeping the existing condition, which was pretty new, but we didn't want to just stop there, right? So in our aim for sustainability, we introduced Sunset's first wooden billboard with structural timber kickstand that emphasizes the billboard's prominence. We decided to go with timber as a more renewable and sustainable material versus, a steel kickstand or anything like that. What's followed is an exterior-rated wood-clad facade to continue the language of the billboard to the rest of the building with sustainable wood material options to give it a more warm look. And so, all in all, in terms of the material palette of this project, that connective membrane to the digital billboard and the static billboard is this sort of white metal-clad framing. It would be a matte finish, so that it doesn't reflect off to other people. As you can see, that's the salvage structure. And then continuing that wood to the side, we're keeping the tenant, if you can see the keys in that yellow facade, that's the existing tenant that's there. We leave that as is, other than what you would see on the left-hand side, which is the paving enhancements and the interactive educational installation. And we'll talk more about that as the presentation goes on. During the day, the billboard is a bit quiet, yet confident. Addition to sunset with warm wood hues and a modern white frame. Future tenants and signage still hold to the lower right of the billboard, like stated. And at night, the inside of the preserved structure are dimmable lights to highlight the structure we've chosen to preserve. The static signage wraps around the building to give the advertisement opportunities. From the view, we also get a better understanding of how the digital and static connect, emphasizing that this billboard is one move rather than disjointed ideas. Our desire for sustainability and renewability drives home with pedestrian activation near the kickstand of the billboard, giving pedestrians educational information. That information will kind of vary from facts about the construction of the billboard to educational information about climate change to energy conservation. You can kind of look at some of our examples about transportation, the benefits of rideshare, and if you look at the top right, you can kind of see the statistics about the billboard. We want a billboard to have a narrative on the ground with its material palette and educational plaques, having accent paint on both the building and on the ground that ties it with this representation of the pavers in the current tenant facade. So lastly, we'd like to present maybe feedback we got last year about the proposed design, specifically lighting. We're introducing a dimmable lighting strategy that sheds light directly to both billboards. The light is all color changing, dimmable, that integrates local events happening or events happening at the tenant. So I'd say to wrap this up, we understand billboards, they use a lot of energy, right? And we have a digital billboard, we have dimmable lights, and the Sunset Strip alone has plenty of billboards along that boulevard, some even being digital. So as technology advances, we want a more sustainable and renewable focus, design that interacts with citizens, so that our long-term goals for this city isn't just about advertising. Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Alana Badi. I've been the owner of, oh, sorry, is this better? Sorry.
Right.
I hate public speaking, by the way, so I'm so nervous, sorry. My name is Alana Badi. I've been the owner of 9039 Sunset for probably well over 20 years. I just wanted to address Ms. Gardner's questions because I probably know a little bit more about what's been permitted through the years and what we've got. So what we have right now, based on approval, is we have an old 25-year-old sign, which is the digital signs that are in the middle, not on the roof, that are part of the art component. That's very rare. There were only 2 signs that were given that right before my ownership about 30 years ago when it was the Key Club way back in the day. that had no developer agreement and what have you. That just had to have some art component. In addition to that, there was the east wall that was for on-site advertising only. And the tenant has that present right in their lease. It's for tenant use. So sometimes they have performers that they put up, or sometimes they have, like a champagne company, like party that they'll post up, and sometimes they'll have a beer party, like whatever they have, they post up, and sometimes they've got nothing, and they just have a sign of their business, which is the Keys Club. That has nothing to do with me. What we're going for here is essentially to flip the two digitals to the rooftop and eliminate two statics into one. And the tenant understands that we're going to modify a part of the east wall by wrapping around, and that their wall will shrink in whatever advertising or on-site advertising they ever have. They also understand that we need to take the left side of the building and change the facade per what we're proposing. So I hope that helps with some clarity of some of the questions you guys had.
Great. Is that the end of your presentation?
Yeah, I mean, so the presentation was really
great,
more urban. I mean, I was just kind of clarifying. So if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer.
Do we have commissioner questions for the applicant at this time? Commissioner Harris?
I just had one quick question about how wide are those educational plaques?
Give me 1 second, sorry. I'll be able to answer that. It's still loading up, but I'm going to say no more than a foot in width based off of the dimension of the billboard in this drawing I have. But I can get an exact number for you. Give me 1 second.
Thank you.
Commissioner Harris, did you have other questions?
No, that was my only question.
Great. Commissioner Edwards?
Yeah, it's just a quick question. I'm seeking clarification. I didn't quite understand the status of the east wall, that when you put up the new sign, it's going to be all gray. You're saying that the person who operates inside the building Keys, they put stuff on it, or we'll still be able to put advertising on it?
So what the east wall is permitted for is on-site advertising. So per our lease, they have exclusive rights to that. They did agree that they would lose some of it because we are going to wrap our static around, but they have complete control of that per the lease and per whatever was was permitted many, many moons ago.
Is that temporary ads?
So, so yes, I mean, like they have essentially changed it, you know, over the months, you know, to have either performers or whatever campaign or parties or whoever sponsors a certain party, and that's what typically, you know, on-site, like advertising is used for, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Hoopengarter.
Yeah, can I ask you to pull up page 14 of your plans that you submitted?
Sorry, internet. Give it a second.
The technology fails us sometimes.
Yeah.
Are you able to state your question?
Well, it very much relates to the image on page 14.
Yeah, it's opening up right now. Give me
Okay.
1 second.
Because back to staff and what is the permit under which this on-site advertising is allowed, you know, because again, that's not addressed in any way, shape, or form in this development agreement. And it's not reflected in the images that we're being presented to approve. So if you look at page 14, that entire wall is shown as a gray wall, hence my original question of the gray wall. And this image, this look, changes somewhat dramatically if you add additional signage to that gray wall. So this clean, neat, you know, swoopy image changes significantly when you add a 2,000 square foot billboard on that gray wall. So there, now we see the image that I'm discussing. So based on the applicant's statement, that would be available to the tenant to place their, you know, event signage or whatever signage that they wish for their on-site advertising, which I understand in concept, but that isn't being presented here. We're not seeing that happen.
Right. So I understand that that image does not have it, and you're right. You know, like that's what we have right now anyway. I mean, so right now we have the 2 digital, the 2 on top, the 2 static, and that. So it's a present condition that, unfortunately, you know, is approved. Like, you know, like has been approved in the past, and the tenant uses from time to time, and sometimes it's consistent. Sometimes, you know, that wall is fully used for lots of time, and I've seen it down also for 3 months. But even when it's down, they still advertise their business with like kind of like the piano sign that the Keys has. So it is. So yeah, I'm like it's on there. Yeah.
It's the image I believe that you show on. Well, there's one on page.
Right. Yeah, like there was one image that
5,
showed
I
it.
think.
Correct.
I'm not sure. I can't tell the page numbers here. On page 5 of your presentation, you show the existing state with that billboard.
Right.
And it says "Fun People Dance," and it's got their @ sign, and I think, I don't know, it's behind a tree, I can't tell.
Yeah, like it's basically like the keys of the piano, or yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
But the problem is that's not what we're looking at. We're not looking at that state of what we're approving. I mean, yes, this gets confusing, and I need to get some help from staff and legal. I mean, I get the applicant is saying, well, this is what we own and this is what we're doing, but then we're being presented with something that says this is what it's going to look like, only that's not what it's going to look like, because there is going to be a tertiary billboard on that entire east wall. And that's not being addressed at all in the development agreement. It's not being addressed at all in the images and the plans, in the statement of the existing condition.
Do you have a question for the applicant with respect
Well,
to
this is a complex thing here. I mean,
right.
You know, so the question is for staff and the applicant has stated what he understands the state to be. That is not what's been presented here.
Do we have other questions for the applicant before we move to public
I'm asking
comment?
the staff what is being presented here. I mean, we don't have any statement. We have conflicting statements as to the state of the state from the applicant and from what staff has presented in the staff report. What is correct?
So I think this being an on-site sign is consistent with what we're seeing in the records. There's not a DA or an agreement for this sign. And in the agreement that was executed for the new billboards that went up, new being the ones that are already there, and the digital sign, it does speak to advertising on the site for events and things like that that happen for the venue. And that, you know, that's why it doesn't have its own agreement, because it was considered an on-site sign. And that's what I'm surmising from this, and we don't have that kind of record from when this would have been put up that's immediately available to immediately see. And in a record search, it didn't come up. So right now we are seeing this. This is the proposed off-site sign as part of the Sunset Arts and Advertising Program. It doesn't include that on-site sign that, from what I understand, will continue to be, but it will just be smaller. So we have a couple of things we can try to do to move this forward or to try to suss out this issue, whether we want to update the conditions and the agreement to supersede all other signs, to remove all other signs. So it already supersedes the agreement. This isn't part of that, but if it were to remove that sign, that's something that we can talk about. If we want to, if it's a situation where it is just a rendering issue, that it wasn't put on the images, that's something that we can have them put on the images moving forward, but it still isn't part of the scope of this request, right?
But if you just said, and I'm saying who said what, but that this on-site signage was permitted in that 25-year ago, however long ago, approval of the existing signage was, and that's in an existing agreement. I'm sorry, that was, if I misspoke, I'm saying that it was acknowledged, but it was approved. It was not part of that. It's not considered off-site signage. And so it was approved through some other mechanism. It doesn't have an agreement that governs it, the same way that the off-site signs do. Okay. But presumably it has an agreement because it has an existing size, and I appreciate the applicant has said, well, that my tenant and I have come to an agreement and they know they're going to lose space, then they're okay with that. But if the city has a contract, we don't have any documentation that allows that existing sign?
We have a lot of signs in the city that don't have contracts.
Okay.
And they're on-site signs, and so this is considered something like that. There's not a development agreement. There's not that kind of agreement with the city and the applicant that there would be for a billboard or a tall wall or something to that effect. In fact, previously for tall walls, when they were first went through, they were conditional use permits. They weren't development agreements or contracts in that way either.
So, and I appreciate that. I mean, this is yonks old, and you know, it is what it is. But we're looking at a whole new situation with a creative sign that covers ostensibly the whole building, but it's not the whole building. And we're looking at, again, this gray wall, which to me I see as just a graffiti wall as it stands. But if it's, to me, this is incomplete. We'll move on.
Right.
You've given me the information I need. I think,
Yeah, sure.
okay.
Let's finish our
I was just
questions
gonna
for the
say-
applicant.
Sorry, Commissioner Harris, just to answer your question about the dimensions of the public activation, about 4 inches. So they'd be repeated to follow the repetition of the paint, as you can see in the images. And we could add more if we wanted to, but this is kind of the idea, that they'd be these strips that would follow along and follow the repetition of the wooden facade.
So just to confirm that I understand, each of those educational plaques is about 4 inches wide?
4 inches wide, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Great, let's finish questions for the applicant, then go to public comment, and then any rebuttal, and then we can return to our discussion and questions of staff.
I'm sorry, but I still have a question for legal. I mean, I pulled up images of this sign on the east wall from Google Maps. And this live image that I'm looking at right here from Google Maps is a sign for beer. It's off-site signage. It is not event signage
Commissioner
for the
Hoopen-
club.
Commissioner Hoopengartner, I think what Ms. Alkire was saying was that the signage on the gray wall or the depiction isn't a part of like an existing contract. So I don't know that I can speak definitively on.
But
how
could
it's
we make
carried.
a condition of approval for this sign that it would supersede all other signage agreements or acknowledgements that have been placed on the property historically?
And we do, I mean, we do have a existing condition, Commissioner Solomon, that says, you know, the DA will supersede and replace the existing DA, although, as we're saying, that's not a part of this,
There
related
isn't
to
a
the
DA.
property.
There isn't an existing DA.
Correct. So there isn't an
So there's nothing to replace.
There's nothing to replace there. I mean, we do have information about the specifics of the project plans. So I think it's something that the commission and the city team can look at during deliberation.
With all due respect, the specific plans don't include this sign. In the existing condition of the plans, this sign is completely missing.
Let's return to questions of applicant, and then we can resume this conversation when we get to deliberation. Any other questions for the applicant at this time?
So, if you're okay.
Commissioner Edwards.
Yeah. So just to confirm, do you have a separate agreement with your tenant that whatever authorizing body at some point, they have access to that wall for advertising events at their, whatever events that they're doing inside the building?
So Commissioner Edwards, thank you. Yes, that's 100% correct. When I purchased the property, I don't know, 20 plus years ago, the east wall was always an on-site advertising venue. On-site, with all due respect, the way I understand it, again, I don't want to claim that I know everything about the signage laws, but you could advertise events and you can advertise also products that you carry. So there have been like many, there were events by like Dom Perignon or Ace of Spades, like champagne, that were advertised, you know, historically. And yes, correct. That's 100% to the tenant benefit. It helps the tenant a lot. It's been always brutal to keep tenants here. We've had a history of tenants coming and going, and it's not easy to keep these music venues. And we've got a great tenant in Hwood who are also the owners of the Bird Streets. This is their venue. to take that away from them, I'd probably have legal issues because it's in our lease very explicitly, and I'm willing to share the lease with the Planning Commission to show you guys that it's 100% theirs. And in addition to that, it does help them promote events and products that they carry. I wasn't expecting this. I mean, yes, we do have that wall present, 100%. I agree with Commissioner Hoffman, Gardner, that it should have been presented on the wall. Sometimes there's something up, sometimes not. But even when not, their sign is up, so you do see something on the east wall. But certainly, we came with an application for something else, and I'm sorry, I guess, that this issue came up. Of course.
Any other questions at this time for the applicant?
You mentioned that you are amending your agreement with your with the current tenant in that this east side signage that you've given to them, you are now making less space available to them for this sign.
So
you mentioned that you had a legal agreement with them,
right.
but it sounds like you are in the process of amending their lease to address this.
And so, Commissioner Solomon, to address that, we've been working on this for probably, and Jennifer knows, about 3.5 years. So when the tenant was coming in, we told them what our vision was. Back then, it was a little bit different in that we were going to have planters and what have you, but the sign looked the same. So we showed it to them upon lease, and that was a part of the lease, that we're going to modify it, the east wall accordingly. That's how long this process has taken. But they knew up front, and that was pre-negotiated with them. So it's not a negotiation that's taken place presently. It was when they first signed the lease, which was...
So there's an acknowledgement that you are going
yes.
to modify the lease if and when this is approved.
Yes, that we were going to wrap it, and we essentially showed them the description of what we're going to do with the wrap on the static, and that they were going to lose that portion of east wall. Correct.
Great. Any other questions for the applicant? Great, thank you so much.
Pleasure, thank you.
Mr. Gillig, let's move to public comment. Do we have any public comment?
Chair, we have one public comment here in council chambers. Anita Goswami.
Thank you. Anita Goswami, longtime resident of West Hollywood, and I remember being here when those signs first came to the Key Club, when that first discussion was being held and seeing those going on. Couple of things here. The proposed signage is just large. I love the creativity wrapping around, all of that. It is still large, it's big. So I just remain concerned about that. I ask that you consider context also. Not a lot of people walk on Sunset. This is up the hill from where I live, and I walk up there, I don't see a lot of people up there. Might need to think about, maybe this is the applicant again, but reconsider those 4-inch plaques. Might want to think about some other way to communicate the sustainability. I love that it's so green. There's such a focus on how it's being built. Consider the operation afterwards and how sustainable is that operation, both from tenant in a evolving and challenging economy that we have, but also, just think about what happens if there isn't anything there. My other question here is really the benefits. So it's 1.7 million in year one, then we've got the 4 years coming in for 500,000, which is the repayment there, and plus the 17.5% city allocation of the content. Things that I would love to see is strip out from the template, because it's clearly a contract template, strip out section 4.2.5.1, which states that the city content could be given back at no benefit to the city. So I'm like, no cost to the owners. So Why are we giving away, and I am speaking as a tax-paying, long-living resident of this city. I am all for for having business. We need to have business here. I'm all for that. And much of the business of West Hollywood is selling the image. It's selling advertising. I'm all for that. But at the same time, we need a viable city. Let's keep those benefits for us. Let's look at all of this in context. When we look at that money that's coming in, is it actually going to be coming in? Let us help our businesses be sustainable, because they need to be sustainable. It's not just the overall environment, but they need to be there too. So again, I ask that you look at those things, look at what's going on at the sidewalk level, not a lot of people. And secondly, how do we make sure that we keep those benefits in those agreements? Let's get some stronger agreements. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. That is our last public speaker for this item.
Great, thank you for the public comments. I will close the public comment section of this hearing. Does the applicant want to make any rebuttal to the public comment? Feel free to come forward.
Sorry, I know this has taken a long time. So I do agree with respect to the walkability on Sunset, not to sugarcoat that there's a million people walking on that street. I am open to suggestions. That was suggested by some of the staff, and I'm okay with it, and I think it looks great, and I think it's, I think it's an important story. But if you prefer that it's completely the same stucco color and what have you, and come up with something else, I'm happy to hear suggestions if that's something that you guys prefer. On the economic side, where I think there is a huge benefit, is that there's two things. We are killing two statics into one, and also on the two digital signs, we do not pay a development agreement to the city because it's an old signage based on the art program, whereas now it turns into a developer agreement as well. So there is an economic benefit to the switchover as well. So.
Great, thank you so much. Let's go into commissioner deliberations. Who would like to speak? Commissioner Edwards.
I appreciate the sidewalk activation because we don't try, we don't get. And so I appreciate how you approached it through that lens to try to activate that. You got to start somewhere, right? I think the big question for me is jurisdictionally, what we have before us is under one set of regulations, but then the existing agreement seems like it's outside of our present purview. Meaning that if we do something today, can we impact that open space that's being utilized by the tenant? Or is that not within our purview at this time because that's not what's actually presented to us? Because there might be something else that exists within the whatever agreement structure created it in the first place. So I don't know if we're dipping our tail into something that's not really within our purview to do at this time.
Commissioner Edwards, it's a good question. I think they're all valid points that have been raised by the commission. And to the extent Commissioner Solomon had a suggestion sort of before public comment, I think, and to your point, it's correct that the tenant lease may not be part of what the commission is considering in terms of the contract between the city and the developer and the negotiated DA. The city would be comfortable with a condition that could be added to the sign permit that said something along the lines of the idea that the on-site sign on the east wall shall be reduced in size to accommodate the new static billboard, and the rear portion of the east wall shall remain on-site advertising as a way to try to address the nexus between what's before the commission and the concerns raised from the dais about what that looks like is one option.
Commissioner Hoopen-Garner, do you think that's a good resolution of that issue?
It might be if we continued the item, but honestly, we didn't notice it that way. The pictures that we showed the community don't have that billboard on the wall. It's not there. This was never discussed in the staff report. The public knows nothing about this. So that's my concern in terms of transparency.
Commissioner Hoopengardner, I think it's a well-noted point. The way the billboard item is set up is that the Planning Commission does make a recommendation to the City Council. So to the extent there's a condition being recommended to the Council and direction from the body with respect to the east wall, I think that's something that the Commission can consider. So I think it is at the discretion of the body, but the Commission is making a recommendation, at which time there'll be, because it includes a DA, 2 readings at the City Council level. But it's a decision for the body.
Well, I mean, I actually design things. I'm fairly good at visualizing, but that's a 2,000 square feet chunk that's not in this image. That when you think about the possible designs, the things that are there, and we haven't even discussed the whole concept of off-site signage versus on-site signage. I'm having a real hard time reconciling that lack of information in terms of making this decision.
Great. Vice Chair Jones.
I'm actually going to let Commissioner Solomon talk because I want to hear what he has to say before I say anything.
Yeah, I mean, the east wall is clearly a problem. You have a historically granted on-site signage permit that is clearly being used for off-site signage and creating revenue. It sounds like the property owner is passing that revenue down to the tenant, but that's just an economic exchange between those two parties. I would be comfortable with granting this signage that we're considering tonight, which is 3 signs, which, by the way, has a 30-year fair market value after you take out the city's 17% programming of $366 million. And we'll take a piece of revenue from that. We'll have a revenue split with that. But I mean, this has got to be the biggest sign we've ever granted, to be honest. Probably, right? I mean, I haven't been around for that long. Have there been more that it's a big one. And also, I do appreciate the design of it. It's simple, it's simplistic. It's also not very expensive as compared to other things that have been granted. Like, this is an economic problem that can be solved. But I think just if you just take down, if you make the current existing on-site signage that is being used for off-site signage, if you revoke that, then you have a big gray wall, and it's going to get graffiti on it. A creative solution might be taking that wood facade and wrapping it all the way around. The owner of the building has mentioned that it will present a legal issue with his lease, but he's already anticipating having a legal modification to his lease. This is just with his tenant. I mean, he said he's going to modify. He said he's going to modify the sign.
He said they went into the agreement knowing that this would shrink.
Knowing that they would modify it. That's my point.
No, knowing that that was as much as they were going to get. That there's not that
they would modify it whenever. We're saying the same. It's an economic problem, and it's enough value being created that I think that we can solve it, but I would not want to approve it tonight until we do solve it.
Vice Chair Jones.
Yeah, so I have a little bit of a different take on it. And again, to Legal's point, you know, his note, the points are well taken. I think what's unfortunate about this is that, in my view, I don't think any of this was intentional. Like the Sunset Arts and Advertising creative billboard program, this particular applicant was asking for to move these particular signs as part of that program. And I feel that if this had just been included in the original staff report, we wouldn't be having this conversation because it's caught all of us a little bit flat-footed. The applicant, staff, it puts us in a bad way, but I don't believe that the intent was malicious. To me, it's an issue of nomenclature, because if this is truly about on-site signage, which is a different category, then it is exempt from what we are considering tonight. I do agree that it needs to be discussed. I personally think, to get back to the kind of heart of the matter here, I actually think that the design is really elegant. I liked it when the applicant came forward in January of last year. I like it now. I appreciate that they removed the seating. We had a pretty extensive conversation about that at Sunset Arts and Advertising in the beginning of 2024. And I'm really satisfied with the design. I feel that it adds a lot. I'm happy about it. I just think that there needs to be, personally, I'd be okay with adding legal's language to this and moving it along to council, because again, this is part of a much larger problem in the way that we are classifying signs. We're not going to solve that here tonight. So in my mind, again, I'm open to discussion, but I would be inclined to go with legal's recommendation as far as language is concerned and move this on to council.
I would just add that I agree with Vice Chair Jones with respect to this issue. I think legal's language does resolve the issue to make me comfortable moving it on to the City Council. Commissioner Edwards.
I was going to concur with that. I thought it was. I'm glad you said the nomenclature. That helped me kind of nail my understanding.
Anyone else like to speak to this particular issue?
Yes. I came here originally, I think this is a very graceful design. You know me, folks, Mass Timber had me at Mass Timber. I'm down with it. I think it's fantastic, okay? I think the concept is beautiful. I think it's, how often do we actually get to, look at a billboard that's actually lower, not taller? I mean, there's many things I very much like about this. I don't like this gaping hole in the development agreement, in the contract, in the plans, in the in the description of the project. I can't make those findings. I can't make a finding that says that there's 3 billboards when there's 4. I can't make that finding. So I would love to vote for this. I came here thinking, assuming I got an answer to my question about this blank wall, that this was going to be a pretty good, pretty easy deal. I can't make that finding. And it hurts me because I really want this to move forward because I think it's a great project. But we have a gaping hole in terms of what is the contract with the tenant, what is the allowed signage on that east wall, what is it going to look like? Is it, because Commissioner Solomon and I both have pictures here that are not on-site signage. They are clearly off-site signage. So there's just too many open questions for me to make the findings that we're being asked to make. Would I love to? Yes, absolutely. Do I think I can? No. And I'm really sorry about that. Can we continue this to a date uncertain where the applicant can come back and show us what that's going to look like and show us the tenant agreement and again, what is the contract with the city? This is a 2,000 square foot billboard that the city has no contract for. We have no contract and we have nothing. So.
And it's not being used for on-site signage. I mean, there's a picture of a huge beer can. That has nothing to do with One Oak or Keys or whatever.
Right, but I just want to note that again, I don't want to split hairs, but it is about splitting hairs because if the definition of on-site signage includes a product that is carried by the business itself.
I don't know that that's the definition.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that we're not going to solve
this definition tonight. Like, this is not something that we're going to be able to take up here tonight.
Precisely. And because we can't get the answers to those questions, I feel it should be continued. And again, it hurts me, but I think it should be continued so that we can make a clear, precise, and accurate recommendation to council.
Did
Commissioner
staff-
Harris.
oh, sorry, please go ahead. I don't want to interrupt. Please, Commissioner Harris, please go ahead.
I raised my hand before you completed your prompt. I'm not speaking to this particular issue. I think it is a kind of a legal, sort of esoteric legal issue that I would like to see resolved just so that the precedent and the record is clear. But it doesn't rise to the level of importance to me. I do want to say I really like the public right-of-way elements. I really like the paving and the paint. I always wonder why West Hollywood and the LA region in general don't do more creative paving. I think it's really cool. I do think that it's the project overall, what we're looking at, does enhance the pedestrian environment. Huge fan of that. I feel like the 4-inch width of the plaques is a little small. That's about the width of my phone. And you would expect like a pedestrian engaging elements that are sort of part of a building to be, I mean, even the examples of the educational messaging that are shown in the project plans, I think on page, what is that? 22, something like that. They look large for the amount of space that's allotted. Again, just a sort of something I noticed about it. But overall, I'm inclined to vote to support the project as written, as long as we can kind of figure out how to make the record clear on this other sign that's on the east wall.
Did you support staff, the city council's proposed language with respect to this issue?
Could you repeat that proposed language for me?
Yes, Commissioner Harris. So the language we read into the record for the commission's consideration would be an added condition to resolution number 251629. That's a sign permit. And it would read, the on-site sign on the east wall shall be reduced in size to accommodate the new static billboard, and the rear portion of the east wall shall remain on-site advertising. I think additionally, if the commission as a body is so inclined, that is part of the recommendation to council on the item. So it could also come with direction to staff to provide additional input on the east wall and also ensure that the renderings evidence what's on the east wall.
Could legal provide clarification on what is on-site advertising?
I think that, Commissioner Solomon, is part of what Vice Chair Jones was saying might be a more complicated answer. But here it's meant to just reflect the on-site sign on the east wall, but I don't know that we have a clear answer I can provide for that. But,
we were just looking at the sign ordinance. It's 19.34.050. It's in there.
Yeah, Ms. Alkire is on it. I just didn't want to speak without making it clear.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yeah, I just have a technical question. Is an on-site sign that's just a wall, is that considered a billboard?
On-site relates to what's being advertised.
No, but I'd heard the term billboard, and I just want to make sure, because when it comes to land use, words do matter.
Well, the existing
I'm
item
asking-
is it a tall wall?
I'm asking that.
Well, is it a tall
Thank you.
wall is the question.
I believe we have Ms. Davis who's muted, but who's providing an answer, so we should be able to get her on in just a second. Ms. Davis, sorry, we still can't.
We hear you.
Oh, you hear me now? Okay, great. So there's a big difference between off-site and on-site advertising. A billboard is for off-site advertising. On-site advertising is for the product on the site. Product or products or services on the site.
Thank you.
So is a Michelob beer can an on-site advertising for a bar?
That's the question I think that the city attorney wants to be clear on before he answers.
Is this an enforcement issue
Yeah.
as to whether this complies with the existing statute?
Correct.
Because we don't need to resolve that tonight. It's something that can be handled after the meeting.
And I would be clear, that's not my issue, what they've put on that wall. I mean, yes, there probably is some compliance issues but that's another conversation. My issue is the fact that there is a billboard there for which we don't have a contract as a city, which is going to, and is not in any way represented on any of the plans we're being asked to approve.
So I would say, with all due respect, then you are concerned with the content of the sign. So I think that with the language that Isaac has read into the record, it's trying to make clear that, just reiterate that it's an on-site sign, and then from there, I think that it's an enforcement issue.
And I would disagree. I am not concerned if it's an on-site sign. I have every much as a problem as an on-site sign. I have the same problem. Because visually, it is another 2,000 square foot sign that is not part of this development agreement, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, you talked to Commissioner Solomon's point about $366 million in revenue. What is an additional 2,000 square foot sign worth? And it is not part of this negotiation. It is not part of this development agreement. It is not part of any contract that the city is entering into. It's not acknowledged. It doesn't even, to your statements, it doesn't even really exist as far as the city is concerned because we don't have any contract. So,
and I would just say that is true for all of the on-site signage for all of the billboard properties that we review. And yeah, they're a little bit different. But for instance, the Whiskey has similar on-site signage that advertises events and artists and shows that are happening there, and that it continues. So I think it is in line with an on-site sign allowance that has gone forward before. So I hear what you're saying. I think that we wouldn't normally consider an on-site sign as part of an agreement like this.
it has not been considered as part of this design at all. And yet it abuts up against this design. It is 100% part of this design, yet we have no images for it. We have no discussion of it. We have no acknowledgement of its existence.
Yes, Commissioner Hoopengartner, and I think for those reasons you articulated on the record, that is part of the Planning Commission's purview on whether or not that means that the findings associated with the negotiated DA and the static billboard that's the subject of the hearing can't be made as a result of sort of the dearth of that information you've flagged. I think with respect to the conditional language for the Commission's consideration, it could include direction, again, if the body, and it's only if the body is comfortable moving it forward, that there could be renderings and more specifics as part of that. But the item before you is properly addressed in the staff report in terms of the actual entitlements and what billboards are part of that entitlement.
And yet we're looking at a sign that's additional 40% more square footage to what's in this staff report.
The condition for the Commission's consideration was meant to address the consideration or concerns from the dais with a nexus to the static billboard that's under consideration. So that is sort of what the city team feels might be an appropriate way to address those concerns relative to the item under consideration.
Commissioner Edwards?
I feel that the arguments have been made. We've heard all sides to the issue. I personally am comfortable with the recommendations by the city attorney, and I would like to make a motion to support the staff's recommendations in the development agreement.
Is that including staff's
Yes.
proposed language?
Yes.
I'd second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's go to a vote.
And the motion passes, noting 4 ayes. We have 2 noes by Commissioner Hoopengarner and Commissioner Solomon, and we have 1 recusal by Commissioner Carvalero. The resolution numbers PC 25-1628 and PC 25-1629, the Planning Commission just approved for the property located at 9039 Sunset Boulevard, memorializes the Commission's final action on this matter. There is no appeal deadline. This item is the recommendation moving forward to the City Council.
Thank you so much. Items 10C and D have been continued to a future date. Item C has been continued to a date uncertain. Item D was continued to January 15th, 2026. We have no new business, no unfinished business, no excluded consent calendar items. We've already heard items from staff. Do we have any additional public comment?
Chair, we have no public comment for this item.
Great, terrific. Any items from commissioners? Commissioner Hoopengarner.
I just want to say goodbye to Genevieve. She's gone, but her voice will be missed. I'm sure she's busy training up her replacement, but she's been an institution here at the city for a very, very long time. And I wish her great luck in her next adventures and a very happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Any additional commissioner comments? Vice Chair?
I do. I just want to echo Commissioner Hoopengarner's comments about Ms. Morrill. I think we all aspire to come up to a podium and give comments as elegantly as Genevieve has been able to throughout my time on the commission. She makes it look easy, and it's not. Whether you're up here or someone commenting from the audience, it can be really nerve-wracking. So she had lots of practice, and wish her all the best. Also wishing everyone a very happy and safe and hopefully dry holiday.
Commissioner Edwards.
I just want to add my Genevieve. I've known her since 2006 when she was at the PDC, and I've always admired her because of her commitment to whatever she's working on. You know, she gets 100%. She does the work, and she comes here and she advocates strongly for whomever she's advocating for. And I just want to echo what everybody else said, that she has been such a part of our fabric here in the city of West Hollywood. I will deeply, deeply miss her, but I'll see her like in everything that's ever happened in the city. And then secondly, just want to share everybody's thoughts about have a wonderful holiday. I hope it's dry. I hope it's quiet. And that's it to everybody. Thank you.
Anything else? Great. Well, hearing none, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. And I will adjourn this meeting to our next regularly scheduled meeting, which will take place on Thursday, December 4th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. here in West Hollywood Park Meeting Room, Council Chambers. Have a good night, everybody.
Issues to residents have been discussed here. Ideas have been exchanged. It's a tremendous